Hey, welcome! Today, we're digging into something huge for any professional out there. It's this idea of going from being the person who just knows all the technical rules to becoming someone who's a genuinely trusted advisor, someone who actually creates business value. So what does that leap really look like?
It all really comes down to this one big question. Think about it. When a client hires a top-tier firm, what are they really paying for? In a world where Google exists and basic info is free, what's that premium all about? It's definitely not just for someone who can quote rules from a book, right?
And here it is. This is the whole shebang right here. What clients are really paying for, what they truly value, is commercially aware advice. Advice that actually translates into real, tangible business value. They want a partner who gets their world. That's the secret sauce. So how do you do it? Well, we're going to break it down into 3 key principles.
Okay, principle number 1, thinking beyond the law. This is all about changing how you see things, moving past just the text on a page and really getting into your client's world. So what does commercial awareness even mean? Well, it's about seeing the whole playing field, It's understanding the client's business, their industry, the pressures they're under, and what they're actually trying to achieve. It's not just about the legal question in a vacuum. Honestly, this is the one thing that separates the good from the truly great.
Okay, check this out. This is the perfect example of the 2 different mindsets. On one side, you've got the simple, legal answer. Yeah, it's correct, but it's just a list of facts. Now look at the strategic solution. This is a whole different ballgame. It considers things like US-China tensions, where the client's customers are, and geopolitical risks. It's proactive. That right there is the difference between just spitting out rules and actually creating a solution.
And a huge piece of this strategic thinking, you've got to follow the money. Seriously, before you even think about drafting a single document, you have to understand the financial nuts and bolts of the deal. If you don't get how the money flows, how can you possibly protect it? I love this analogy. It's perfect. Think of it like you're an architect. The legal paperwork, that's the fancy building you're putting up. But the commercial deal, the way the money works, that's the foundation. And if that foundation is cracked, it doesn't matter how beautiful the building is, it's all going to come tumbling down. So rule number 1, map out the foundation first.
All right, so once you've got that deep commercial understanding, what's next? That brings us to principle 2, bridging the complexity gap. Because look, it's not enough for you to understand all the complicated stuff. The real skill is making it simple and actionable for your client.
So how do you actually do that? How do you bridge that gap? Well, here's a great 4-step process that's honestly a game changer. First, you take all that complex stuff and break it into smaller, manageable pieces. Then, you start with the big picture before diving into the weeds. Next, and this is key, you focus on the so what. What does this actually mean for the client? What do they need to do? And finally, you strip out all the jargon. The goal here isn't to sound smart, it's to make your client feel smart and empowered.
And a huge part of this is realizing that not all clients are the same. You have to be a bit of a chameleon. Think about it. A giant bulge bracket bank, they expect you to be fast, pragmatic, and to already know their business inside and out. But a mid-sized company doing their first IPO, they need you to slow down, to educate them, to hold their hand through the process. The best advisors can switch between those modes without even blinking.
Okay, on to our 3rd and final principle, and this one is so important. It's all about protecting the commercial outcome. This is where all that big picture thinking gets translated into meticulous, detailed work that directly protects your client's money and their reputation.
I know it can sound boring or tedious, but the verification process on any deal, it's like walking a tightrope. One tiny mistake in some marketing materials, a single wrong number, can have absolutely catastrophic consequences. We're talking about the kind of thing that could blow up the entire deal. And just think about the domino effect of one inaccuracy. Suddenly, you've got angry investors calling. Then the regulators get involved. Next thing you know, there are huge financial penalties. And maybe worst of all, the bank's reputation, which took decades to build, takes a massive hit. Suddenly, that tedious detail work doesn't seem so tedious anymore, does it? It's actually one of the most valuable things you can do. And this idea isn't just for IPOs. It applies everywhere. Take aviation finance. When you're dealing with airplanes that cost millions and millions of dollars, that checklist is everything. I mean, everything. Every single document has to be perfect before a single dollar gets sent, because that's how you protect the deal. Because if there's even one tiny gap in that checklist, the results can be disastrous. We're talking about millions of dollars in financing that are suddenly unsecured, totally exposed. That's not just a legal headache, it's a massive commercial failure. And that right there is why attention to detail isn't just a skill. In these high-stakes worlds, it's basically a superpower.
So what happens when you really master these three principles? Well, something amazing happens. You start to see the bigger picture. You're not just looking at one deal at a time anymore. You're connecting the dots between your work and these huge global trends. And that is where you provide next-level value.
Just look at some of the massive trends happening right now. You've got supply chains completely shifting because of US-China decoupling. You have tons of startups moving from China to Singapore. And you've got this explosion of data centers trying to navigate chip restrictions. Each one of these trends is a tidal wave of new opportunities and challenges for businesses. The question is, can you help your clients navigate it?
And that's the payoff. This is how you go from being reactive, just responding to requests, to being proactive. When you understand these bigger trends, you can go to your client and say, here's what's coming around the corner. You're not just talking about today, you're helping them prepare for tomorrow. That's invaluable. Here's a perfect real-world example. Singapore recently changed its prospectus disclosure rules. They went from this super rigid checklist to a much more flexible, principles-based system that's more like what you see in other global markets. Now, a technical expert would just tell their client, hey, the rule changed. But a commercially aware advisor explains why it's a big deal. They'd say, this is great for you because it's going to speed up your time to market and make it easier to attract global investment. See the difference? That's real business value.
So all of this leaves us with a really big question, especially now. Think about AI. It's getting incredibly good at knowing the rules, at processing mountains of data way faster than any human ever could. So, what's left for us? Could it be that this very thing we've been talking about, commercial judgment, strategic thinking, truly understanding a client's world, is that the last real human advantage in this profession? I'll leave you with that one to think about.